is the Knilly and PB podcast. In this weekly series, we're reading Twilight because Knilly's never read it and I want to send memes.
Mhm. I'm
That's your
Knilly.
cue. That's your cue.
This is what happens when we change the formula. I'm kidding.
I'm PB and we're here to talk about chapters 7 through 9.
Yeah.
I guess those chapters, or is it chapter 7 through 9?
It is chapter 7 through 9. We got it correct. We're so good at this. You know, we tried a new thing and maybe we won't anymore. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh. How are you, PB?
I am doing great. How are you doing today?
Phenomenal, especially after that. We totally nailed that intro. I was like scrambling for my tab and I missed the cue.
You didn't see it, but in real life, I like nudged you with my elbow. I was like, "Oh no, it's your, it's your." I tried to think of some subtle way to be like Knilly.
See, not to be quite honest, I thought you were going to introduce yourself first, not me first.
You know, maybe that would that's a future cues, future notes.
Future notes. Okay, so like chapter 7 through 9, pretty packed.
Yeah.
Any kind of like general things to like bring up before we like just kind of dive right in the way we usually do it, which is going through our notes and page by page?
I do. So when I picked out what chapters we would read each week, and it just ended up being three chapters a week. And so I went through and I looked at all the beginning pages and all the ending pages, and to gain a little bit of context of where we were starting, where we would start in the week and where we would end in the week. And I was like really wishy-washy. I was like maybe 2 chapters, maybe 4 chapters. I really don't know how long these chapters are. And I chose 3. So I flipped through the first 3 chapters and I'm like, okay, this is good. Then the next 3 chapters, and I was like, okay, this is good. And then I flipped through the next 3 chapters. And when we got to the very last line of chapter 9, I was like, aha, no, this is a sign that it is supposed to be every 3 chapters, because this is you could not end on a better line than how we ended chapter 9. And very similarly, in the next segment, we're also going to have a pretty iconic last page or 2. Um, and so when I was picking it out, this was the moment that I was just like, aha, we're doing 3 chapters. That's what we're doing. Just because of the last line of chapter 9. Also, I remember that Stephanie Meyer had a blog that she updated as she was writing the Twilight series. So if you guys are interested, it's stephaniemeyer.com.
Amazing. I cannot believe that yeah, that line is like one of the most, we'll get to the line when we get there, but the way I recognized the line, even though I hadn't read the book, I'm like, oh yes, this is like partially on some lot. This is like some of the stuff you'd find in the promotional materials or bootleg journals or something with like a live, laugh, love instead of this quote.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah.
So let's start with the first chapter then.
Yeah,
chapter 7.
Nightmare. Bella has a nightmare about like, essentially to the sum of the nightmare, it's like Jacob telling her to run away from allegedly Edward in this dream, because of she's like, oh, maybe I got kind of spooked from the story he told me at the beach or whatever, and trying to justify it. And then she just walks into the woods to like clear her head and sit in the rain. And I'm like, I think what I wrote was like, girl, this is dangerous. And then I realized she was staying on the path, and I'm like, I literally in one of my notes was like, bring a compass or something. But then I realized she just like stepped off the path when I like reading further, but it sounded like she just walked into the woods.
Just willing, you know, when I read that, so the woods are a fairly common theme in the Twilight saga. So when I read that, I was like, wait, what? So in my, like, I had like 4 different scenes like going through my mind trying to figure out which scene was happening right now, what was gonna happen. And I was like, "Oh, is it the time that this happens? Is it the time that this happens? Is it the time that this happens?" And then it was the time that she just sat down and contemplated life, and made a very important decision actually on this little trip of just of straight up, I don't care.
Yeah. Yup. I think before this whole woods thing though, she had like done some research on
Yeah.
various vampires of the world. And one of the things I wanted to like kind of get into, um, which was surprising to me, but I think if teenager me was reading this would be very surprised at the representation, the very, 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 very mild mention of the Philippines in here. Because I have here highlighted, she's on this website where they're listing various vampires throughout the world in alphabetical order, and one of them is the Danag, which is a Filipino vampire supposedly responsible for planting taro on the islands long ago. The myth continued that the Danag were the human for many years, for many years, but the partnership ended one day when a woman cut her finger and the Danag sucked her wound, enjoying the taste so much that it drained her body completely of blood. I've never heard of the Danag. For me, my family is Tagalog, and while we're from the same island that I learned, like Luzon was when there's 7,000 plus islands in the Philippines, to be from the same one is very rare, but Luzon is like the biggest one that you see on the map. So like we're on Luzon together, but they're like the far northern end, where the Isnag people come from, and this is their folklore, the Danag. So I hadn't heard of it because it's not my like my parents groups lore. We have the Mandarugo and all that. And to keep in mind, I have these books that are pretty common for those that are interested in Filipino folklore and mythology by Maximo D. Ramos, and they're pretty comprehensive. He has like a whole series of like 10. They range from deities, monsters, and gods. And he makes a point in here, and I would say that it's very good to make the distinction because there's a lot of monsters in the Philippines between vampires and what does he say here? They're called viscera suckers because there is a whole other class of monsters that will. I don't want to get into it. It's a little kind of explicit, but let's just say that there's some monsters that do more than blood. So, and by some, there's a lot that they deserve a whole other category. But in general, kind of like ghouls in like Western lores and other European lores, like ghouls kind of can encompass like a lot of things, or like ghosts or whatever. And aswang is like the general term in the Philippines, but like in some areas there's the blood sucking aswang, that's a vampire, but that's not. It's similar to the Danag, and then it's similar to the Mandarugo, which is the Tagalog one. I will say Stephanie Meyer got it pretty close. I think in this literal volume that I have the most information on, called Creatures of Midnight. Wow, it almost looks like the Twilight cover. There's a bat on it and everything.
Ooh.
Black and red. What an aesthetic. In Creatures of Midnight, this whole passage is like barely longer than what is here. And it's very like straightforward. Here's some facts about the Danag. The Danag were gods of the Isnags long ago, so they were semi-human. They were like what do you call those? Superhuman, I guess, or gods, I guess, as the book calls it. They came down to Earth and tilled pieces of land. They planted taro in their clearings, so that's correct. They became friends with the people on Earth. Cool. A man was making a bamboo fence one day. Now, keep in mind, she changes to woman in the in her book, in the reading that Bella said. She said it was a woman. Here it's a man, but it also could be either, because the Filipino language is gender neutral, so I could see it being done either way. But here we have Maximo Di Ramos saying that a man was making a bamboo fence one day around his taro field. A bamboo sliver ran under his fingernail. He asked the Danag to pull out the sliver. The Danag pulled it out by sucking it. The blood came out with the sliver as she did so. And here the Danag is a female. because I guess there's some mild sexism in this because all of these vampires tend to be female in the Philippines. She said that human blood tasted good. She told her Danag friends human blood was sweet. They stopped planting taro and became vampires. They lived by sucking human blood from then on.
You know what? Good for them.
Yeah, there's a quote from another book that's like, yes, planted taro. Yeah, they planted. The blood of the human is sweet. That is the end of the Danag's planting. Kind of a way more ominous way of saying it. That they like, oh yeah, we're drinking human blood now. So not wrong, but also like, yeah, you find this on the Wikipedia page. So I'm like, that was neat, and I learned something new about my greater culture. Not specifically mine or my family specifically, because we're not from that region, but it was neat that I hadn't heard of the Danag. But yeah.
When you talked about it, off, when we were just giving me the one word summaries of what was happening, because I just read these chapters last night. I usually wait until Sunday to read, but my Sunday was a little jam packed, and so was my Monday. So I just read it last night. And when you were just like, "Oh yeah, the Nog," and I was like, "That sounds familiar." And I don't think I necessarily recognized it from Twilight. I think I definitely recognize it from a Drawfee episode. But I when you said it, I was like, I've heard that before in this context.
In this vampiric context.
In this vampiric context. So when I read it, I was like, oh yes, this. I remember this. I do want to point out that the dated references in this chapter were the CD player.
Oh yes.
And dial-up, free service, and the pop-up ads that used to pop up, that you used to have to. It was a little mini game. It was the original cookie clicker.
Yeah.
Just fucking click off of the ads faster than they show up. And I was like, these are things that the kids won't understand.
Nope, they will not.
Also, my favorite thing was the line, "It was a relief. One small entry, the one myth among hundreds that claimed the existence of good in vampires." I love that line because in my notes, I keep track of all the red flags that exist. And on this one, I wrote, "Me ignoring all the red flags because of the one normal flag I found." I was like, "Oh, look, it's a green flag."
Of course, it's also my favorite vampire name, Stragoni Benefici.
Yes, Stragoni Benefici.
Stragoni Benefici.
I even wrote in my notes, there's an Italian's garlic joke to be made here, but
Italians, get back to us.
Italian. Leaving that one up in the air for you guys.
Yep. Oh my god. But yeah, so she goes through all that. And like one of the things that she makes a note of that is actually like common, like they seem to have constructs created to explain the high mortality rates for young children and to give men an excuse for infidelity. Yeah. Vampires, man. Gonna live long. Suck someone's blood, I guess.
Oh my god. So so a reoccurring theme here that we're gonna see in these 3 chapters, and for the rest of the series, is both Bella and Edward in some sort of grips with sudden agony and despair about something or other. This time is just the sheer thought of Bella being rejected by Edward.
Oh my god.
And when I read that, I was like, "Oh my god, you're such a teenager."
It's so teenager angsty in this one. But before we get into that, one more note of like more outdated stuff, and I got very angry at Bella for this. Aggravated, I snapped off the computer's main power switch, not waiting to shut things down properly. How dare you, Bella? How dare you? I'm offended.
I was like, Bella, especially on older computers, you can't do that.
Can't do that.
You can brick your computer, Bella, and then what is Renee gonna do?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Stragoni Benefici.
Other things to note is she was writing a paper about Macbeth. And also, like I said, she made a decision. about, I don't care. I'm okay with that. And then her just being like, and later being on, I'm just like this though. This is just how I am. I agonize over making the decision. And then once I make it, I follow through just easy.
Oh, is this
It's
me?
like
Is this the
choose.
thing about me?
Oh no, this isn't the thing about you.
But like, I identify with this part, and I think
Yeah,
I
I was like,
also highlighted it at a certain point.
I was just like, also the note, the quote where she's talking about sometimes the relief was tainted by despair, like my decision to come to Forks. And I just love how much she hates Forks. It
Yeah.
really gives me so much life every time she's just like, just she's just so shady towards Forks all at all points. There's not one point she will just kind of let it slide that she's in Forks. She's just
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, Forks, that shitty place. I'm like,
Mm,
okay, Bella.
You're
Yeah.
here. Sheesh. Oh god.
Oh my gosh.
What else do I have
We
here?
tried.
What else do I have highlighted? I have one of these things highlighted that made me laugh. And the way he sometimes spoke with unfamiliar cadences and phrases that better fit the style of a turn of the century novel than that of a 21st century classroom. Like, yes, he is talking like your Sense and Sensibility book and your Pride and Prejudice novel. Yes.
There's a line later on here, when they're talking where his one word response is unequivocally. I
Yeah,
was just
like,
like, you shut the fuck,
you
shut the
Darcy
F
ass
up,
motherfucker.
Edward. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um, also there's a moment where Stephanie Meyer wrote dust motes in reference to dust in the sun.
Oh yeah.
And I had to look one up because I assumed it meant specks of dust, but I was just like, maybe this is like a specific thing. No, it's just specks of dust or
Just specks of
motes
dust.
of
Yeah.
dust.
Those are
Also,
big dusts. Like, I think of a moat as
yeah,
something bigger than a speck. So
yeah.
like the fact that it's like like that big, okay.
It was like, okay, dang,
You got
dang.
some you got some freaking Spirited Away soot balls in your window. Better go fix that.
Oh my gosh. I want you to know that when she said she had done all her homework over the weekend, a product of a slow social life. I'm like, Bella Swan, you were quite literally the most popular person at this school. You have
Yup.
4 different boys pining after you.
Yup.
And literally, you're surrounded by the most popular people in this small school. How are you going to say you should have the most pop in social life? You are just the one that's so self-involved. You don't involve yourself with anyone.
Yup.
You could totally have a social life.
Yup. I can't. I just. Oh my
Just a
gosh.
teenager.
Yep. Oh, here's another highlight I have. Book of recipes for fish.
I also have that. I also have the highlight.
We have to highlight our food references. Now, we don't have any recipes for fish, but it's nice that she's like, oh, yes, my dad went out fishing, and I guess I should get some fish recipes to cook what he got. Like, cool, dad just leaving to go fishing by himself, not saying bye. But you know what, Bella? At least, like, you know, you like your space, and that's nice that you think of your dad and his hobbies. Such a good
Oh,
daughter, I guess.
fucking best daughter. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's horrifying how bad parents are in this series. My next favorite part is whether what did you write your essay about? Whether Shakespeare's treatment of the female characters is misogynistic. I had to put the book down because I was laughing so hard when
I
I read that.
died.
I
I died.
completely forgot about this. And my favorite thing about Stephanie Meyer and the Twilight series is that Stephanie Meyer 100% writes Bella as a feminist.
Yeah.
Back when feminist was like a bad word in the 2000s, it was actually a little bit like,
It was like edgy
I
to
wouldn't
be
say,
a feminist.
yeah, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but it was very like a big deal that she wrote Bella like this, which is I think another reason why the series is very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but among young women, but also my favorite part about it is because it's so very like new age feminism. Because in the same time, um, I don't think that this book has passed the Bechdel test yet when it
No.
comes to conversations. I'm like, there's not one conversation I can think of that you weren't either motivated by Edward or one of the other boys in this series, or was just explicitly about a guy, or you were talking to a man. Um,
Yeah.
and I was in my notes, I was just like, also points at all the Twilight series and also how reductive Team Edward versus Team Jacob is. And
Yep.
I'm just like, this is such a feminist book without just feminism.
Yeah, it's so weird, and especially because like I laughed because like so Shakespeare specifically named characters are actually also very feminist in his writings. Like,
Yeah.
there are like the people that are treating other women like shit because that's also like the time period, and that's just how it was. And I'm not excusing that; it's still shitty of them. But like
Yeah.
Shakespeare's named characters were typically actually like the most empowered, if not more empowered than the men. Like I think BB and I, we were talking about Macbeth earlier, and we were talking about how Lady Macbeth is pretty much the main character of Macbeth. It's not Macbeth, it's Lady Macbeth.
Exactly.
What'd you call it? The poster child for a girl boss gatekeep gaslight?
Yup.
Like, so it was just so interesting. And also, like, this whole conversation with Mike that ends up, and I have highlighted, but I think that would hurt Jessica's feelings when she's just trying to, like, pawn Mike off to Jessica. Oh my God. Yeah, saying that Bechtel test thing, I don't think there is one so far. The shopping section barely counts because they're talking about just shopping. So, like, but in the end, in the end, it still ends up being a conversation of, like, Edward during the shopping thing.
Yeah. Entire time she's thinking about Edward.
Yeah.
There's not a moment in time she's not thinking about Edward. Even when she's not thinking about Edward, she's thinking about not thinking about Edward.
Yeah.
And
I gotta get my
like,
mind off of him. Maybe I should get myself some clothes. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Also, I don't know. So I didn't take PE in high school.
Oh,
I was in marching band.
Oh, sure. Okay. That
And,
was your PE.
and that took our PE credits. But like, did you learn different sports in
Yeah.
PE?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you learn badminton in PE?
We didn't learn it like sit down and here's a freaking lesson. It's like, here are the rules. Here's some badminton things. Go at it. Learn by doing, bitches. Like, okay, and badminton also was not one of the ones we learned, but like we learned different sports, and some days it'd be like, oh, it's like soccer again or whatever, depending on the weather. And like maybe we'd have like, because I think my gym was like, oh no, my gym was at least every week. It just was a different day, like every other. It was I had a weird rotating schedule kind of thing to make it not boring, in quotes. But yeah, we'd learn sports, or like the days that you didn't have to learn anything that was like a real sport. It's like, oh, it's scooter day, bitches, where we got to sit on the floor on these little wheelie pieces of plastic, and inevitably someone's gonna sprain their finger because they left it on the outside and not the inside of the handle, and you bonked into somebody.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't know. No, I was just like, we've gone through volleyball and basketball so far.
Yeah.
I was just like, badminton. I just remember in middle school and elementary, it was just like a dodgeball, kickball,
Yeah,
basketball, and soccer. That's why I was just like, badminton?
I think some sports kids got out of gym class. Like they would still have gym on their thing, but they got out of it because like, hey, like we called our PE teacher coach because he was also like he was a coach of several other teams, so he was just coach. So it's like, hey, coach, can I like skip? Do I have to get changed today? Because I have practice later. And like, he's like, no, you're fine. And then you got to hang out and go to the lunchroom, which was really nice, especially because I did tennis. I did like JV and varsity tennis in the fall. So like I got to benefit from the like, can I skip gym today because I have practice later? And then they're like, yeah, like sick. Or like you got to sit on the sidelines and watch your friends have to play.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. The thing I was just like, Ashley Knilly, though, is when Bella pulled out a book from her collection that was compilations of works by Jane Austen.
I highlighted
and she
this
says
too.
that her favorites were Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. And in my notes, I wrote, actually, Knilly, though.
I actually haven't finished Sense and Sensibility, but Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorites. So, um,
Like, this is Knilly to a T.
yeah, I'm telling you, I might have probably been Bella in another life. In an alternate universe where the actual events of Twilight happened, I was this albino white chick in love with a motherfucking vampire that enjoyed reading Shakespeare and Pride and Prejudice.
Oh my god. I also thought it was very funny to add on to your commentary earlier. Is which is very angry because she couldn't read either of them, because weren't there any other names available in the late 18th century
Right.
when referring to Edward and Edmund from the books?
Oh my god. I also think in freaking I started reading the other one. I don't have my Kindle here because I'm looking at this on the app. But I think the other one that I started, Wuthering Heights, I think also has an Ed in it.
Look, it's a very popular late 18th century name.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I mean, to be fair, it's still kind of a popular name now. My dad and brother are both, well, my dad's Eduardo and then my brother's Edward. So like,
yeah. I mean,
get it. It's popular.
Oh my gosh. Also, another dig at Charlie, as I always do. Bella realized that dinner would be late because she fell asleep outside. And so first of all, dinner is never late. Dinner always arrives right on time, especially when you're not the one cooking.
Yep.
And then Charlie was just like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll check the game score." I'm like, "Hey, Charlie. Hey, Charlie. How about you help? How about you help and make sure maybe speed things up a little bit? Maybe that'd be useful." And I'm just like, oh, and then he was later on, he's just like, he was just happy they were hanging out together when they were watching TV. And I'm just like, hey, Charlie, maybe if you ever help with dinner, Charlie, you can hang out with Bella some more.
Yep.
I'm just like, I don't care how much of a disaster human you are. If Bella freaking clumsy trip over air while you're sitting down, Bella can figure out cooking, then so can you, Charlie. So can you.
Yup. I mean, apparently he studies himself 17 years before Belle's got there, so.
Hey, so you could go into the kitchen, Charlie.
Yeah, right?
It's not warded, bud. You can walk in there. Common L for Charlie.
Common L. And then we get into shopping, and she's very relieved that your L from last week, Lauren, wasn't showing up. So she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely going since Lauren's not going."
Also, my favorite thing about at the beginning of that chapter is the line, "The estrogen rush was invigorating," because I had to stop when I read that. I was like, there's no way I just read that correctly. There's no shot you said the estrogen rush was invigorating. I'm like, what does that mean, the estrogen rush? And I just, and then this came with the revelation, a great revelation, is I think this book was written before its time, Knilly. I think it was written before its time.
Sure.
Because I think the Gen Zs would have a field day in a good way with this book. If you go through this with the lens of a Gen Z or like an old alpha, of just like, they would eat this feminism up, this new age feminism. Like the estrogen rush was invigorating. You'd hear that all the time. Are you kidding me? That'd be on TikTok immediately, right now.
Oh my god.
So from now on, I want you to keep that in the back of your head, because I'm going to bring it up a few more times.
Estrogen rush. I mean, Jessica's dinner with Mike had gone so very well, and she was hoping by Saturday they'd get to progress to the first kid stage. Oh my god. Fucking teenager shit right here. Granted, I don't think I've ever had that kind of conversation, even with some of my like girlfriends back in high school. Like my core circle of friends wasn't like this, but like even the outer circle of friends of like the people that like Jessica and co would be like, I don't think I've ever been like, oh, I think I'm gonna have my first kiss next week. Then I'm like, I feel like it's such a teen romance like made up thing. Is that like a thing? I've never had that kind of conversation.
My friends didn't date while I was in high school, so, like, there was no opportunity for that kind of conversation.
Oh
It
my
was just
god.
like it was just like, I can't even imagine thinking at a point where I thought like, "Oh, we're gonna kiss soon." That was
Yeah.
never a thought in my mind. Maybe it's 'cause I was gay, and I didn't realize it, but maybe, like, it's just, like, it wasn't a thing I ever thought of. I was just like, I don't think." I will say, oh, the fact that the reason that Lauren doesn't like Bella is because of Tyler,
Oh yeah. I
saying
love
that he's
that
gonna
so
take
much.
Bella to prom.
Oh my
I was
god.
just like
I was just as angry as Bella for her in that moment. I'm like, oh, that kid thinks he's
I
got balls. I'm about to rip him off.
I Tyler told her. Tyler told Bella, like, "It's okay, I'm taking you to prom anyways."
Yeah.
When he asked her out on so we'll circle back to that conversation in a little bit. But, I mean, technically he told her.
Yeah, he did.
It shouldn't have blindsided Bella. She knew.
I mean, she didn't say anything. She didn't consent to going to the prom with him yet. He just said he was going to take her to the prom.
He's just very confident.
You're very confident, very cocky. I just love the idea that Bella's like, he needs to stop because it's fine. He almost ran me over. We're past this point. It's fine. He needs to stop. Please stop.
It's like, maybe I'll run him over. Do you think he'd give that up then?
Yeah, right? Oh my
I
god.
was I was like, "That's such a 2000s thing to say." Oh, something that was really relatable is, the line where Angela was overjoyed that she finally had a date tall enough to wear high heels,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm like, "That's relatable." That's
I
relatable content.
I cannot relate as someone who is 5 feet tall, 5'1". PB, you're
Oh my
5'9",
god.
right?
Yeah, 5'9", 5'10".
So tall.
I'm a toll.
I'm so small. Tall and small. So I can't relate, but it's actually more fun because then when I do wear heels, all my dates are like, wow, look at you. We're at the same height. I'm like, wow, cool. It's like I'm short, like naturally.
And I'm just like, "Oh, no, I wore" when I wore heels, I just continued to tower over people I already towered over. It
Mm-hmm.
was good times.
Yeah, I can't imagine being able to see above the fridge. That TikTok's been trending.
Oh, yeah,
That whole
when
TikTok of like tall people. Why you haven't been saying that? You've been seeing things up here. I'm like, yeah.
I even commented on one of the videos. I'm just like, on somebody tall who was talking about it. It's just like, no, I'm never gonna tell anybody that the top of their fridge is dirty. Like,
Yeah.
how am I gonna tell this person with a white fridge that they've got a black top? I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not my business. Not my
exactly.
monkey,
It's
not
like
my circus.
exactly. It's like what's up here is between her, that person, their stepladder, and God. Like, that's
Yeah.
not my business.
Oh. You know, as a tangent, I have one like basic step stool, and then I have like a little. You can stream can't see it, but PB, you can kind of see it right here.
Yeah.
Is my is my step ladder, and to the way that I am like, I should get like 2 more of these, so I don't have to bring it from room to room because I'm
Yeah,
so
you should.
freaking short. Is
My
sad.
My parents have, like, a small little stepping stool, one that you just, like, step onto, it's just one step that
Mhm.
unfolds, and they have that in the kitchen so they can reach things that are a little bit higher, and I think it's so cute, because I can reach everything very easily in the
Yeah.
kitchen.
I have thankfully dated people that are just taller than me, so that sometimes I can be if they're in
That's
the
not
kitchen with
hard.
me, and then I go like this. I like do little grabby hands high up. They know that I need them to reach, so I don't
You're
have
just
to.
like
I'm like Babby. I can't reach.
it's like, "Eh, eh,
Yeah. So I don't have to go and get the step stool, which is probably in another room. And
You gotta
also, man, the way that like I took to climbing because of the amount of times I have to climb my kitchen counter sometimes because I didn't want to also get a step stool is high.
Yep.
It's very high. So
The short people, the climbing ratio is so high.
yep.
The pipeline.
Yeah. Yep. Incredibly high.
Oh my
God.
gosh. Oh my god. So on a more somber note, we had Bella then very foolishly, in my opinion,
Oh
go
my
off
God.
alone
In a
in
town she's not familiar with.
a town she's not familiar with. I spent like half this section of writing my notes just yelling at Bella and being just like, "What? like going away by yourself
Yeah.
in the city couldn't be me.
Yeah,
Couldn't
especially
ever
because
catch me doing that.
sometimes I forget the time period, but I was well aware of because of her writing so far, her like reports and her computer research. There's no cell
Yeah.
phones. There's no cell
No.
phones right now, so she's like really effed and trying to find this store. And then even if
Yeah.
when she does get into trouble, she can't like start faking a phone call or even like call straight up just call like the authorities, like call
No.
dad on speed dial 911.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's like,
even
no.
more dangerous.
Yeah, it's just, and like the thing that I think annoyed me the most about this situation is that her friends, Jessica and Angela, offered to come with her.
I know.
And I thought that was so cool of them that they were just like, "Yeah, we'll come with you to the bookstore,
Bookstore.
absolutely."
You came dress
And I'm
shopping with
just
us. And we're like,
exactly. It's like you indulge in their interest, now they're indulging yours. Like
Bella,
that's
just make
what friends
friends.
do. Yeah,
Just make
it's just
friends.
and she was just like, "I wrote, but you said no, Bella, rude ass." And then Bella has the survival instincts of a koala, which we'll get into with when Edward comes into this
Oh my god. This
story.
whole thing. I have highlighted here like some of these like things coming up of these like four men that like are gonna like try and kidnap her or whatever. A
Yeah.
group of four men turned around the corner I was heading for, dressed too casually to be heading home from the office, but were too grimy to be tourists. As they approached me, I realized they weren't too many years older than I was. They were joking loudly among themselves, laughing raucously and punching each other's arms. And I'm like, this is so very Grease Lightning right now.
Yeah, there were so many times that it also in this entire series. So of everything in Twilight, this is the scene that sticks out the most to me. This is the one that I've remembered and has stuck with me since I read it. And because like I was like really into it. Like I was really into the reading session at this point. Like I was sitting there, I was imagining like myself going and just being very disinterested in dress shopping and then being really excited to go to the bookstore. I was imagining her going to like a Barnes and Nobles or something. And then
Mm-hmm.
like it shifted into like this basically a horror scene of
Yeah.
her being pursued by these strangers. And like this was the scene for me because I think a lot of us have that scene or a moment in our lives where you've just been like that always now reminds us to like always check our surroundings
Yup.
and how to walk and where to walk and et cetera, and how to be safe while walking around places by yourself
Yeah.
especially. And for me it was this scene. This is the scene that always comes to my mind to the forefront. I don't remember exactly, like I didn't remember the four guys or anything like that. It was more like the emotion that Bella was feeling is what stuck with me the entire time. And when she just kept talking about taking turns and turns and turns, I'm just like, "Bella, I need you to stop doing that. Bella, I need you to stop going farther and farther away from civilization.
Yep.
Stop going, it's like, what are you doing, Bella?" And I felt very much like Edward later in this chapter
Mm,
where he's just like, I feel like it's an impossible task keeping you alive. I don't know. I don't know how, but you are the most if there is danger anywhere in a 10-mile radius, you will attract it, Bella.
yeah.
And I felt that in my soul. But at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid to walk alone and people shouldn't be
Yeah.
assholes, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's just the reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's so the thing is it's something that hasn't even gone away now, like
Yeah.
especially now. Um and it's just so effed that like even in this book that's like so fantasy and like just about like
Yeah.
romancing a vampire, that there has to still be this like, oh yeah, you gotta look over your shoulder all the time as like a woman or femme presenting person outside, like because there are bad people and
Yeah.
freaking greedy ass gross ass men, like ugh.
Yeah. To move on from here, there was a line where Bella said, "Stupid, unreliable vampire." I thought to myself. First of all, that was such a funny line.
Yeah,
She
first
was
of all,
referring
yeah,
to Edward. That's so
straight
funny.
up admits it. Like, oh yeah, I believe he's a vampire. That's where you know, like she understands. Like, he's a vampire. He's probably a vampire. I indoctrinated myself to believe he's a vampire because this is before the whole like theory chapter with the interview session.
Yeah. And also I wrote, "Tell me that you wouldn't think Gen Zs would eat that line up."
Oh my
Just
god.
like stupid, unreliable vampire. Like
Yep.
100% they would just be saying that to each other, right?
Oh my
Like
god.
this comes out, this is the new thing. They'd be eating that up.
I mean, I'm an
Also,
unreliable vampire. I don't drink blood.
and then we mentioned the Volvo again.
Oh my god. We see the Volvo. She's like, "Oh, it's not his. It's his. Is it his? It's not his. It's not. I mean, it's probably his." And
It's like it was right. It was mentioned earlier before she went on this adventure, of just going into the middle of nowhere, Port Angeles, and then we see it again, and I just love that. I remember reading this when Edward pulled up because they don't say it's Edward until the next chapter. Basically,
Yeah.
it's just a nameless person who's just pissed.
Mhm.
In this car. I don't even think they say I don't even know if they say it's a silver Volvo when it
Yeah.
rolls up, or maybe they do, and that's just you
Yeah.
just
For like
assume
a
at that point.
split second, I might have thought it was her dad, but I'm like, no. For the romantic setup, this is Edward.
Yeah, after the romantic side of this is Edward,
Yeah.
and it's just like with a curse, get in. A
Yeah.
furious voice commanded.
Oh, the way she was just so like, yes, I will do this. Yes, I will do this. I'm like, man, you really are making it believable that vampires have charming abilities. Like literal
Right?
charm abilities.
It's just like my favorite part then when we get into this car is that a few seconds later, Bella looks over at Everett and asks him, "Are you okay?" Because
Yeah.
he's like obviously seething.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Bella, don't ask him if he's okay. You're the one that was in danger. What do
Yeah.
you mean is he okay? And then Edward comes down a few moments later and then asks if she's okay. I'm like, Edward, you first. You ask first.
I understand that you want to rip their throats out right now, like quite literally, but you're a gentleman. And he remembers that.
Oh man.
And then he says, I followed you to Port Angeles. And I'm like,
Oh, there's a red flag there.
Red flag right there. Like, okay, cool. You can read people's thoughts that you understand within like a, what was it, like 10-mile radius. But dude, let her go girl shopping. I mean, okay, cool. You're here in this instance, but like, chill, my guy.
I mean, he can't read her mind though, if he is to be believed.
That is true, because she's so weird.
Yeah, which is another very funny line.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you can't read my mind. What does that make me, a freak? And it's just like your ass, and then he laughs. It's just like, are you serious?
You serious right now? He's
I
like,
just
I know
told you.
I know that you know.
It's like, I am literally a monster. Which also, you should put a counter on that for how many times Edward refers to himself as a freaking monster, bro.
Oh my god.
It's very obnoxious. And what is that? Oh gosh.
I think this is actually like gonna start leaking into like that last chapter called Theory, which is like all of the interview questions and all of this. So like we're just gonna kind of keep rolling with it. But yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's me. No, it's just me. I can't hear anyone anywhere. I have to be fairly close. The more familiar someone's voice, and he puts this in quotation marks, is farther away, is the farther away I can hear them, but still no more than a few miles. It's like being in a huge hall filled with people, everyone talking at once. It's just a hum, a buzzing of voices in the background. Until I focus on one, then I can, what they're thinking is clear. And he usually tunes it out. And then it's easier to seem normal, he frowned as he said the word, when I'm not accidentally answering someone's thoughts rather than their words. Which I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm glad we're getting the power scope of Edward. But still, like, you followed this girl shopping.
It's because he later says that like he has this like a need to like protect because he's anxious without her. But before we get into that, I want to go back to my older notes from the first and second session, because like I said, I am writing notes about things later now that I have the foresight of what happened. And so I don't write these by chapter. Oh, I guess I did write these by chapter. In chapter 2, there is a I wrote, I love that Edward is making small talk and so engaged in their first real interaction. Makes a lot more sense the second time through. And then I put in quotes, he didn't understand and looked unnecessarily frustrated by that fact. Lamau. Because this was in their interaction in, I believe, biology class,
Oh yeah.
where Edward finally had, golden eyes. He was feeling better and was actually talking to Bella. And they were actually making small talk, which I think is something that Edward doesn't do very often because he can just read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought it was so funny. I think it's so funny throughout all the beginning parts of this that he always looks so frustrated that he
Yeah.
can't understand, he can't hear Bella's thoughts. And then a little bit later, in that same interaction, he says, "I find you very difficult to read." And I thought that was also very funny because I wrote, "That's because you have a crutch, you cheater." Um, and
Yup.
then because he does.
He
And then
does.
that's and then there's a moment where he's just like, "What are you thinking?" He asked curiously. And I'm like, "Yeah, what are you thinking, Bella? Because some idiot can't read." And then I don't think she'll tell him what she was thinking about. And then he said, "That's really frustrating, you know?" He complained. Also thought that was very funny. "And most people are easy to read, except for you. I wonder why that is," he said, brooding. I also thought that was very funny. That's from the second session.
Oh my god.
And then on page 99, Bella says, "You can't know that," I argued. But then I wondered suddenly if he could. And I was like,
He
"You son of,"
can. He's
I was
trying.
I was like, "You son of a," and that was in reference to Mike hating him after the, blood drive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was just like, and that's why I think I even said it last episode. I was like, "Oh, you are an SOB, Stephanie Meyer, for writing all of these things in plain sight without having any of us think anything until this reveal right now in this
Mm-hmm.
moment." So my question to you before we continue on with
Yeah.
the rest of that chapter is, did you know that Edward could read minds?
I had this idea, but that's only because like of my like general vampiric knowledge of like very like as someone who plays a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, vampires have mind reading and slash charming people on
Mhm.
their power sets. So like I was like, he could probably actually read her mind. I thought it was a little bit more direct and not more of like he's reading everybody's minds at once.
Mhm.
Um, the writing being a little on the nose didn't really like hit with me. It was just more of like her being dramatic, to be quite honest. So it kind of went over my
Yeah.
head. But like, I think the whole him being there at the right time and like the reflex stuff, I'm like, oh, this is vampire power set stuff.
Yeah.
So like it was the you reading it back to me is very funny because in retrospect because of that. But I wasn't surprised when he's like I can read minds. So
Mhm.
I'm more surprised that he's having trouble with Bella's mind, but that's because like I believe according to some shit that I've like absorbed over the years, like she's kind of just also like a special human in some sort of way, but I think we'll get to that much later down the line.
Mhm.
So no need to answer that
Mush
now.
let's see. It's, so they had that you can continue on. I didn't write any notes about the questions she asked.
Oh, I didn't. I only have some stuff highlighted. Like there's like some funny stuff. So, relax. Like oh, the fact that he's never been in an car accident and he's like a chronic speeder. He's never even gotten a ticket. I love the idea of like built-in radar detector. Like yo, my guy, I'll ride in your car all the time. Not gonna get a ticket. I thought that was funny. And oh this little line right here, how she's saying like oh I tricked Jacob into telling me the story. He didn't tell me, like it wasn't his fault he told me, it was my fault he told me. And she's like I tried to flirt, it worked better than I thought it would. He's like I'd like to have seen that. He chuckled darkly. And you accuse me of dazzling people, poor Jacob Black. Like yeah, freaking you would have liked to seen that, would you? Huh. And this whole like oh my god. My note here. A hard mocking edge entered his voice. You don't care if I'm a monster, if I'm not human? No. And then with that no, I wrote, our girl's a monster effer.
Oh my god.
Because like we
oh my
also know that like with the whole like Jacob v. Edward thing that there's gonna be some werewolf feels. So like our girl's got tastes.
Oh, here we go. I wrote oh, there is he wrote, I followed your scent. And then I wrote, wait, what was that? Was that Lightning McQueen? Arizona watermelon tea? No, that's a red flag. That was a red flag.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, I hear voices in my mind and you think that you're the freak.
Very funny.
That was very funny.
I also really like this little age exchange. She's like, "How old are you?" 17. He answered promptly, and she's like, "How long have you been 17?" And he's like, "A while."
I want you to know, Knilly, that's an iconic Twilight quote right there. That is Twilight history you just quoted right there. That is something
that anyone why it's
anyone
so highlighted in Kindle shows me very popular highlights. You can imagine it was this one and the other one that we're gonna get to.
Yep, that is it's memed now. It's a huge meme now, but like iconic. You could have said any part of that call and response. Easily anyone could have been like, "How old are you? 17? How long?" A while. All the time.
Yeah, oh
It
my
was
god.
so funny.
Yeah, and here he just kind of like breaks down like burned by the sun is a myth, sleeping coffins is a myth, can't come out during daytime myth. So he just knocks those out of the park. I'm like, the good, great, getting these out of the way. Shoo shoo shoo. I love it when we can like clear up the mechanics of like what your monster is. And that just might just be like the like D&D or RPG DM in me or GM in me, because like I need a clear power set for you so I can gauge like how OP you're gonna be at the end of the story.
Yeah. No, and I think that's just good writing in general, because that's what makes a good superhero or a good like villain good.
A scope. Yeah.
When you because then you get to play along too, right? With the story of just like, oh, I wonder how you're gonna do this. How are you gonna defeat this villain? Also there was a moment where when Bella said, "Don't worry, it's just a theory." And in my notes, I was just like, "Do you think MatPat stole that from Twilight?" It's like, "Don't worry, it's just a theory."
Maybe.
A Twilight theory.
Though my favorite counteraction is like, about the whole sun exchange. She's like, "What about the sun?" And he's like, "Well, I don't get hurt by the sun, but I don't like to be seen in the sun." I'm like, "Because you glitter." One of the things I know about Twilight vampires is they glitter in the sun. And so it made me chuckle on the inside. He's like, "I'll show you sometime," but he didn't want to say what it was because he's embarrassed.
Oh, I can't wait until you see why that's iconic.
Oh my
God. I can't talk about that yet. Oh, I love that. After everything, Edward was just like, "You haven't asked me the most important question yet." And Bella's like, "Which one is that? You aren't concerned about my diet?" He asked sarcastically.
I know, that was
so I was
so
just
funny.
like, "Oh, that." It's like, "Oh, that."
Yeah, the legit like blood sucking
like,
part.
Yeah, that.
The most dangerous part about this man.
I have wrote, "LOL, effing Bella, I swear, this is a comedy in another life." This series, I laughed so hard when I read that. I was like, Bella, man.
Oh my god. And they do go into so Edward, like some important parts here at this point in the book is he does kind of verify that the Quileute story is pretty much true. And they do hunt animals, and she's like, "Oh, so you guys were hunting that weekend, you couldn't come to the beach?" And he's like, "Yeah." Yeah.
When he was like, off with Emmett.
Yeah. I love the joke that they call themselves vegetarians when they do animals instead of humans. I was like, that's so funny to me. As someone who's like, I don't really like veggies. I'm pretty picky eater when it comes to veggies. I've gotten way better about it in my adult years, but like I'm someone who like primarily loves like protein and meat. So this it's like extra funny to me.
Yeah.
The But yeah,
I
it's
agree.
just like there's some good quips in this exchange. But yeah.
It was really funny reading through the whole thing. Like, and I wrote in my notes while this like Q&A was happening. I remember distinctly being so enthralled reading this part. Like I started reading, I don't know if I read this from beginning to end or beginning to through this whole section all in one sitting. But I definitely know that at least a little bit before they got to Port Angeles and through this section. I probably read maybe in the next chapter after this or 2. I read that all in one sitting because I was so enthralled in what I was reading. I was, like, really into the entire moment,
Hmm.
because it was because again, I read this before it was a cultural zeitgeist before there were movies out there. I read this when this came out, and all I knew is that Edward was a vampire and vampire media was like barely reaching its peak. Van Helsing had just come out and
Oh no.
it's the gas going.
You cut out for like a hot second. You want to just repeat the whole
Oh,
Van Helsing
oh,
thing?
uh Van Helsing had just come out and Underworld was just getting its like the gas going under
Mm,
it. So for me, the rules of vampirism was very much just um from cartoons essentially. That's where I'd seen
yeah.
vampires the most at that point. And so reading through this, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like he really is a vampire." And this is how we discover it right now. Because at the same time, because I know what happens. I know that they're fine. I know that there's another 3 books after this. But the idea that Edward was so violently like exhibiting the same exact mannerisms that he did in the first episode,
Yeah.
the like for second chapter, where he is like clenched so fully like uh trying so hard to control himself in this chapter about thinking about those men that were
Yeah.
looking to do something bad to Bella. But those are the same exact mannerisms he's had in the first
Yeah.
chapter where he was so aggressively trying to stay away from Bella. And then him saying that he, wanted to drink her, he wanted to
You
attack
wanted a
Bella.
blood. I want to
Yeah.
suck your blood.
Yeah. And so in this way of him just literally saying like, "Oh no, we're vegetarians." Except that some people are very alluring and sometimes you can't control yourself. And so at that point, it's just like, oh, and this just became very dangerous despite Bella having no ounce of survival instinct in her soul.
No. None.
Um, and she's just like, oh, that's so sexy, actually. And that's a green flag
The
instead
green
of a
flag
glare.
wants to give me a really scarring hickey.
Yep. Um,
Not
because
that
at
I
the
think
same
Bella would know what a hickey is.
no, God,
She would
no.
not. Um,
Um, and then he's just like, I don't want to be a monster. And it's just like and that's just a fucking thing about Edward. He always just talks about not wanting to be a monster.
I
I'm
don't
like,
want to be a
"Get over
monster.
yourself."
Get over yourself. Lean into it, my guy. Chicks dig it, apparently. So, like, my guy, it's cool. I just love this. I like love this part when she gets home and dropped off, and then like she calls her friend to like let her know that she's back home or whatever, and she's like, "You gonna tell me? You gonna tell me? You gonna tell me? You gonna tell me?" Like I'm like, "Oh, this is where okay, teen young adult thing is back," and she's like, "I'll tell you in trig. Tell you in trig. Shut up, my dad's home. My God."
So there I wrote, the phone rang and I yanked it off the hook. I wrote, "I'll take sentences a modern generation wouldn't understand for 200, Alex."
Yeah.
And then she caught on quickly, "Oh, is your dad there?" "Yeah, that's right." 1,000 for the daily double. Because no shot, if someone's reading that who has no context of a phone that
Landline. Yeah.
yeah, a landline, they wouldn't they're just like, "Just walk into another room, you weirdo. Why wouldn't you
Yeah.
just" It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's not how that works. It's not how
Yeah,
that works.
even if you did have like a wireless landline thing, which we ended up getting one. It's not reliable across walls, so you can't like
Yeah.
fully leave the like short radius of a wireless phone on a landline regardless. And also,
Exactly.
this would have been a text exchange in the modern day.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It would have been the FaceTime. It would have like
Yeah. Oh my god, it would have been a FaceTime, and that would have been so funny. And then you would have like a cut to like Bella like twisting her phone to show her dad in the background, who's like hunched over the couch. Like, yo, give me. Let's rewrite this in for 2022. Let's go. Let's go. I have this book about like it's very cute actually. It's called Hamlet's Blackberry. If Shakespeare's characters were like in the modern day, but it was also like a mix of like digital health essentially, which is very funny.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, give me Bella's iOS. Let's go. Let's do it. Bella's iPhone 12 SE, whatever. Let's get this version of Twilight, because I bet you a lot of things could have been circumvented. Like this whole Port Angeles thing would have been not a chapter.
My god, tell me about it. They also she would have had the app. She would have had the app of just like holding it until you let go if something bad's happening. Like it would have been a whole thing.
Double tap that, mash the power button for the emergency call, like,
and
or like even just faking the phone call.
Yeah, literally, it's a million things. No, Bella would be the person who had her headphones in, listening to
she would have like
music,
big noise canceling, and she'd be unaware, and it's even more dangerous.
Yep. It's like Bella would be the PSA of things not to do.
Yeah, in that Port
Angeles general episode. In life.
Oh my god.
Let's see. Oh, I wrote why didn't you want to leave? Referring to Edward, and Emmett hunting,
right,
where he wanted to leave, because it's like it makes me anxious to be away from you, and I was like, that is something that in 2000s, before anxiety was a thing that was well known, so romantic. That's such a romantic line as a teenager. You're just like, oh my god,
I'm always on your mind.
You want to be around me always,
all the time.
And now, as an adult, I'm just like, waves huge Mexican flag sized red flag. I'm just like, that's a red flag, baby.
Red flag. Especially because he ended up stalking you to Port Angeles. My god. Chill out, Edward. Oh my god. We are getting close to our... Yeah, go ahead.
The last line that I'm just really thinking about is, don't you see, Bella? It's one thing for me to make myself miserable, but a wholly other thing for you to be so involved. I don't want to hear that you feel that way, in reference to her also feeling anxious away from him. And it's like, it's wrong. It's not safe. It's dangerous, Bella. Please grasp that. And Bella's just like, no. Edward's like, no, I'm serious. Bella's like, so am I. It's like, I told you, it doesn't matter. It's too late. And then he's like, never say that. And then she starts crying.
I know! And then the way, like, the thing is, like, if I'm ever like kind of that like heated conversation, I also would just start crying. I like felt that. I was like, and he's like, are you crying? And she's like, yeah, I'm crying.
It's like tears betrayed her.
No, I'm not. It's so funny. It was I like started laughing. She's like, because I love how abrupt it was too, and I'm like, I started laughing. Like, not at Bella, with Bella, because like in intense conversations like that, like I used to like be really bad with like stage fright and even just like one-on-one conversations. Like, it's a miracle that I can like do some of the stuff that I can now, like public speaking and stuff like that. If you had known me when I was like 5th grade prior, like I would I'd cry. I had like I was raised Catholic, and and we have to go to confessions. I couldn't do that. I was sobbing in the fucking confessional. It was awful. And it was not because that I was saying all these bad things I did in confessional. Like, it's because like literally the setting is like, it's also really scary. Like, screen, you can't see the person you're talking to. It's dark. You're talking about these very degrading things about yourself that maybe you have to say when you're in 3rd grade in order to like get past this like religious sacrament, and you're like, oh god. In retrospect, it's very, very weird. But yeah, I totally felt that. Like, oh, I could totally be like in intense conversations will like get me like that. So I totally like felt that. It also made me laugh because I'm like, oh yeah, I understand where this is coming from, but it's very funny because like when you said like, oh, these two need to get over themselves. Holy cow!
It's so, first of all, it's just so teenagers because they're so self-involved.
Yeah,
Everything is about like the world revolves around them. And it's just such a teenager thing because that's how your brain works. Everything is so immediate. But I was just reading it, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
yeah,
Um, it was but also I wrote in SpongeBob text, when Edward, a person who has never been vulnerable in his entire life, says, "You were gonna fight them?" Um,
I love that so
I'm
much.
like, I'm just like, yeah, Edward, what the heck else was she gonna? It's like you weren't gonna scream or anything, and it's like I was gonna get to that. It's like, yeah, Edward, like I get that you have no dangers in your, you are the apex predator here, but like
Yes,
some of us are not.
yeah. And it is one of two choices as an instinct, fight or flight. And we know that Bella cannot flight. So
Yeah.
because she could
Yeah.
not, she tried and it did not work.
Yep. And it's like you weren't gonna run. It's like I would just trip. And I'm just like, I'm
Girl!
glad you're self-aware enough to understand that about yourself, Bella. But maybe like still try. Like I'm just
Yeah.
saying, maybe this is your day.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about her imagining herself breaking this person's nose, like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to break this person's nose and get the bone up into their brain. I'm like, okay, you'd have to hit them really hard for that. You can hit them hard enough to break their nose because you can get at an angle. But girl, if you got it into like that piece of bone into his brain, you don't need Edward.
Yeah, honestly. Dude, everything she was talking about, she said pushing those the nose into the brain, also poking the eyes out and making them fall out or something. I was like,
Yeah,
Bella, Jesus.
Chill. Like you just need to like, you don't need to pop anybody's like eyeballs out of their sockets. You just need to make it uncomfortable so you have time to run.
Yeah. And it's
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
damn. But I guess when you're up against 4 people, you gotta hope for the
I guess
best.
you gotta go to the extremes. You gotta go to the extremes. Oh my God. Oh
And
man.
last but not least,
Oh yes.
the iconic quote.
Do you
In
want me
fact,
to
I
read
think
it?
this is, yeah. In fact, I think this is on the back of the book.
Oh, it
Go
probably
for
is.
it.
I think it is on the back of the book. About three things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how potent that part might be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. It's blurry, PB. We can't read it.
I know.
Turn off your Google blur.
Where's my Google blur? Google blur. Turn off. Apply visual effects.
Like I said, you're gonna
No
find
effect.
this on some like bootleg third-party merchandise instead of Live, Laugh, Love. You're gonna find this quote. You can barely read it, but it's there. It's
Yeah.
there. We believe it. Believe
It's
it.
there.
Believe it, everyone. Yeah, this is like the iconic line. Like I kind of knew about this line since it's like, it was probably also like some voiceover thing in like a trailer or something at one point, maybe.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, like I've definitely like I could never recite this to you if you asked me before this. But if you read it to me, I'd be like, that's from Twilight. Like if you would like cut out the names and I'd be like, that's a line from Twilight. Like
Yeah,
before I read this
100%.
book, like I would know. Like you just know.
And it was just like, it's such an icon. That's other history. That's Twilight history right there. Those 3, anyone could have recited to you those like sacraments. They were so just iconic. Also, I think that's why a lot of people know what irrevocably irrevocably means,
Yeah.
because of this line specifically. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But like also iconic, truly.
Yep. For those at home, not capable of being recovered or rectified. So she is beyond. She's fallen off the metaphorical cliff of love and cannot get back up in this moment. And I'm like, damn, that was fast. I mean, I guess she's been ideally like, I think the timeline she's been in Forks for like a couple of months now. Not like a year yet at all.
God,
It's
no.
like
It's
what,
been
max
like
3 months.
yeah, maximum 3 months
Um,
at most.
we'll probably look up a timeline after that, but yeah. That is how we end this section of chapters, which, yo, snaps for PB for picking out the segments that we're doing. Perfect endings in the last one with the scary score story, and then this one with the iconic quote. Like, you know, it's perfecto. Perfecto.
Thank you.
What is the name of this Italian vampire again? Hold on, I gotta say
Strego
it.
ni benefici or whatever. I thought the same exact thing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So, we have to do our VIP and our worst of the week before we finish up.
We do have to do our VIP. I don't want to give my VIP to Edward, even though he was there at the right time. But he was also there at the right time for the wrong reasons. But I actually think my VIPs go to the ladies. They really did offer to go to the bookstore with Bella, and we're gonna be friends.
Yeah.
And like, they are friends. Like, they invited her out. So like, Bella's like, she always makes like she can't stand how like social butterfly her friends are. But then I'm like, stop
Yeah.
hanging out with them if you don't like it. But she continues to,
Yeah.
and they want to be her friends. So you know what? VIPs, like, W's of the week to Jessica and not Lauren, Angela. Lauren is the one she didn't want to go. Lauren still gets an L. Like, the first letter of her name, L, because she's a bitch.
Damn, get
L
him.
for bitch.
Oh my gosh. My I'll give you my joke ones first.
Sure.
My W my W is for Lady Macbeth on from the paper that I'm sure is centralized on her. And B, oh my god.
I didn't give an L, and I don't know who I'd give the L to yet.
My L goes to either tied with Mike's tidy spikes of his hair.
Oh! I highlighted that, and I forgot to mention it. That freaking in-sync ass hair. Oh my god. The way I read that and immediately saw Justin Timberlake in my mind is like immediate, like not more than 200 milliseconds when I read the way she described that.
I love that so much. I knew so many guys who had that hair. It was the style. A lot of people wore their stuff like that with the khakis and the rugby shirt.
I think I was only saved from that because I went to a private school, so we had a uniform and dress code, so you couldn't wear hair like that.
Yeah.
But oh my god.
Everyone wore their hair like that. It wasn't like it was a very common thing. And tied with estrogen rush. Those are my joke ones.
Estrogen rush. Oh
no. Who's your L?
My most obvious L goes to those assholes, but oh, you know what? My L goes to the hostess at the restaurant where they have some of this conversation, because before they jump in the car, they go to a restaurant to get food because Bella missed out on dinner with Angela and Jessica. So Edward takes her out to dinner, and this hostess do be trying to like get a number from Edward. Like, she straight up be trying, and also is like getting the other wait staff in on it, and they're also kind of like, how can he be with this girly right here? So my L goes to the restaurant staff. They failed.
Oh, my other favorite line that I'm scrolling is, I told you I had a theory. I've noticed that people, men in particular, are crabbier when they're hungry. I was just like, Bella, you can't just say that.
I mean, you can, and it's true.
It's true. It's true. And I thought that was very good. But my W goes to Jessica, because she was actually kind of not the worst this time around. Honestly, since we've met Lauren, Jessica's been pure W.
Yeah.
And my L goes to Bella this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Bella caused me unnecessary emotional stress.
Oh my god. Like, if Bella was my little sister and she told me that story, I would probably be like, I'd be mortified and be like, you're never going out again.
Yeah. It's like, Bella is the child that all our parents think we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
She is the nightmare. She is the worst case scenario.
my
Oh
god.
my god.
Yeah,
So fucking-
can you at least tell me if she gets any sorts of survival instinct later on in any of the books, or is this just it? Okay, great. Love that. Love the silence. Love the reaffirming silence. I'm gonna continue being angry at Bella. Because, like, I
Oh my
can't say
god.
she was sheltered. She did so much stuff. She's such a parent. But the one thing she
Yeah.
lacks as a parent is how to protect herself and her. I can't say offspring, but like in the scenarios, if she's a parent, her parents would be the kids. So, like, but they
It's
didn't
like
need protecting, and then I get it, I guess.
it's like she's the caretaker, but she's just a caretaker, and she does not care for herself
Yeah.
in the slightest,
No.
in any way, shape, or form, emotionally, physically,
Nope.
nothing. She
Nope.
does not care.
Does
Oh my
not
God.
care. Oh my god. Yep. So those are Do you have a TikTok or something this week?
Not this week, but for next week. I do have some TikToks for next week.
Okay. I don't really think there's even like too much else here. The next episode we are covering chapters 10, 11, and 12, which apparently are starting to get spicier. Like on the scale of 1 to 10, this was probably a 5 or 6 in terms of spicy.
Yeah.
But it's like the ball's getting rolling. So apparently these are getting spicy. If what you said last week is to be believed.
It's like I'm excited.
So yeah, we're gonna end the episode, a very iconic ending. A lot of gang, if you're walking alone, know how to protect yourself. Be aware of your surroundings, please. Biggest lesson. Especially if you are a woman or femme presenting, please.
Love of God.
Hate to say it because of society today, but like it's still a thing. There are still modern lessons to be learned. It's not just that freaking oh my god, who's the actor that plays Edward? What's his name?
Robert Pattinson?
It's not just Robert Pattinson is out here being referenced in the book as Edward, as Batman, and then playing Batman. No, that's not the only modern things that are happening. This sort of shit still happens. Be careful and watch out for each other.
Oh my god, I totally forgot that he played Batman. Oh, we could have talked about that last week when Bella said Batman or Peter Parker.
I know. I think you meant to mention it, and we kind of glossed over it. But that's a really funny connection. But yeah, I'm sure we'll also talk about more of Robert Pattinson's acting accolades when we get to watching the movie. So
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Which, by the way, as an aside, before I get into this outro, PB and I found out because she showed me all of the international covers of Twilight books, and while some of them were the books, actually there's a manga. There is a shonen manga for the Twilight series, and you bet your patooties that we're gonna get our hands on a translated copy.
Absolutely.
Because if there's anything that I might be a whiff of, it's a little bit of a weeb, and this will be great. And they released it in volumes. It's not like the like Stephanie Meyer's website has 1 through 3, like it was like the books 1 through 3, but no, it's volumes 1 through 3 of like the entire story. So there's 10 books to cover, I believe, the entire story, or I don't even know if it's the first book. We'll have to look. We're gonna do more research, gang, but we'll let you know where you can find it if it's in a kosher spot to get it. So yeah, I really would like to indulge in that as well. And we'll look at all the beautiful art, because apparently, it just kind of matches. It just works. Anime boys, very picturesque. It makes sense. Yeah, everyone's beautiful.
And a lot of the men in the story, very beautiful.
Very beautiful men. So yeah, with that, join us on the Knilly Online Discord, which is probably where we'll get we'll post some screenshots of this manga to discuss the episode or ask questions after the show. If you're in my Twitch chat right now, !Discord to get the link. But if you're watching this on YouTube, it's gonna be in the description to join the Discord. You're gonna get updates and all that stuff when we post the episodes on YouTube. And thank you for dropping subscribe and like and comment on videos. We truly appreciate that. This recording and past episodes can be found on that YouTube channel, the Knilly and PB podcast. The new episodes go up on the Fridays after the recording, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. We're going to be coming to more podcasting platforms soon. Does my Discord thing not work? We'll fix it later. We'll be coming to more podcasting platforms soon. Thanks so much for listening. And we'll see you on the internet. Say bye, PB.
Bye.
Bye.